as many of you know, I'm a child of deaf adults, and I have two kids. I've had my parents over. My parents are divorced, so they've both come over. My stepmom and my dad, and then my mom came over at a different time. And it's been beautiful. It's been so great seeing everyone interact, but at the same time, it's been pretty challenging. So I've absolutely witnessed this interaction and the intersection between my parents and then my kids, and most of it centers around communication and connection. So I'm definitely, I know the experience is different for everybody. And it really depends on the relationship that's been formed, the amount of time that's been spent with, grandkids and the whole family in general. And so there's certainly different ways to navigate this. But I also want to stress that um, my experience, I know, is not the only one either. And so this is the reason why I wanted to share. I think that what's been fascinating me lately and where I've been sitting a lot of space and a lot of attention, putting a lot of attention around, is that intersection between deaf and hearing relationships, and however it manifests in work, in home, and between parents and children, between grandparents and grandchildren, between medical professionals and deaf people, or even deaf doctors and then hearing patients. Wherever this intersection happens between deaf and hearing communities, I've definitely been really attuned to, and that I think like having it happen in my own house has been really interesting. So first, before I dive into some of the things that I've been noticing, is that I wanted to talk just about healing and moving forward. So I recognize, and I want to recognize, because I think it's important, that a lot of deaf people have experienced these relationships with hearing people where they haven't really invested the time to connect or even learn sign language. And I'm not talking about just like random hearing people on the street, but like people that are in their lives consistently who, have the opportunity. And I'm not trying to shame or make anyone feel bad, because it's hard. It's not easy. So it's reframing that like you have to, and if you don't, you're a bad person. To really, I think, centering and focusing around just a little bit. Like it doesn't have to be everything all at once, but just doing those little things, but showing that you're really invested, um, can really make a difference. And I think, and again, this is open to discussion, but I think that when we recognize and process these emotions, where it's either, I should have done this, or I should go back, or this person didn't do this for me and I needed this, recognizing, are these feelings around that intersection between deaf and hearing, is that from the past or is that from the present? Like what, and if there's unresolved issues, those are things that we need to really try to resolve. Is it with a particular person that really hurt us and kind of gave us this blocker? um, and then there's of course counseling, there's therapy, there's ways that we can work through those issues so they don't carry on in our present relationship. So that fear, that rejection, that isolation, those feelings of guilt from the hearing side, or those feelings of inadequacy. There's so many things around both of those intersections. So definitely, I think I want to recognize that, because I think that definitely shows up in a lot of intersections. But when we do that, then we can also move forward to the heart of connection, which I was really trying to establish. I think it's definitely an ongoing process, but it's finding that common ground, right? So what is that shared interest that you have together that you could start talking about? So for example, like in my family, it was around pickleball. And so we were, it was like, oh, okay, well then we could either suggest to play it, or if you want to start conversations, it's, I see that you love playing pickleball, and what's your favorite thing about it? Um, and of course, communication can be an issue, right? It's how do you get those ideas or feelings across when you don't know how to communicate in someone else's language? And so it's feeling like, oh, if I say something, am I going to make a mistake, or are they going to judge me, or how are they going to respond? Are they just going to walk away? Are they going to take the time to actually conversate with me? So I think if you're at that junction where you just don't know enough to have those type of meaningful conversations, there's always gesturing, there's always writing it out, there's always finding pictures, or kind of finding ways to really just um, make those concepts connect and lighten the mood. That's, I think, really the biggest thing. Also, I think family stories are really important, especially when we're trying to connect. deaf culture to hearing culture, because we recognize that there are two different cultures, right? So there are different ways that we behave, manifest. And then I want to recognize those families that are multicultural and multilingual. There's a lot of things that come along with when we talk about, really having different consciousness, different ways to present, or different ways to be conscious around different people. Um, so finding out about what the cultural traditions are, a little sharing about deaf culture, I think is an incredible thing, and really helps connect the dots to some things that may just be overlooked. Learning together. So again, connecting the dot. Hey, I want to teach you some new signs. That's always like a great introduction, especially with grandkids. It's always fun. You can bond. And I would just say remembering to create those shared experiences. So like, doing something special for someone else is incredible. Like writing them a note, or leaving them a signed video in mail, or just doing like a little gift, like even if it's something that you draw, just something that you're just shows that you were thinking about them and that they mean the world to you. And when you do those little things, you're creating this sense of value. Like you're really putting into that relationship, and you're showing that you're thinking of the other person. And if it goes both ways, that reciprocity, that builds and strengthens that relationship. So again, whether you're doing little things like that, plus you're trying to connect with some family, activities like creative projects, or cooking or baking together, games or puzzles. I know these days, a lot of the kids, including mine, are on video games like nonstop, right? And so that can be a little daunting, especially I'm sure as grandparents who are like, I know nothing about that. That's not my jam. I don't play video games. I think what's really important in those spaces is just to see what they're interested in and find those connections. So whether it's just sitting and watching them play and then asking them some questions or cheering them on, that's just showing that you care about the things that they're doing too. And remembering that they're young, so it's that developing things. You can hike, you can go out to museums, you can go camping. There's tons of things, but remember, we're creating those experiences together. We're creating opportunities around communication. So try to think of games where maybe they have to like find things and then finger spell things back to you, or tell you about something that they've seen, so you can create different opportunities for them to practice signing. I know initially what I wanted to do was I wanted just to make this an all signing kind of experience. And so, but by doing that, I didn't realize it was way too much. And they weren't at the place where they could just sign, right? They just didn't know enough signs to do that. And so then they felt really intimidated and backed down versus wanting to engage. So I think that, it's taking it slowly, really finding opportunities, and kind of expanding on what they do know and where they feel comfortable, and praising them along the way of the different things that they've learned, as far as, communication goes. Also, building trust and connection. So that takes, that's what it's about, right? It's like, why am I investing, right, this time, blah, blah, blah. And, it sounds like really, it's almost like it's not transactional, but healthy relationships do benefit one another. That's just how it is, right? So when we're doing that, we have to think about, okay, we want to have constant interaction. We want to engage and make sure that there's empathy and understanding. And we're wanting to create these shared experiences, shared memories that connects one another, right? So constant interaction, like I said, spending regular time to build familiarity and comfort, that active attention, showing that interest, right? Using eye contact, positive body language, really showing that like, hey, I'm invested in you. We want to create this. This active attention is important, especially in deaf culture where eye contact is everything. That has to be, that's an education piece that we just, constantly drill down. Being patient and understanding about communication challenges, because it will come up, especially in deaf hearing households, whether it's grandparents, whether it's children and parents. Those things do come up. They just do. And instead of just being frustrated at those points, being patient and being understanding and trying to empathize around the experiences of the other person really does help us get through some of those points where we're feeling like we're not understood. Shared experiences again, positive reinforcement again is huge. It's not going, I expect you to do this, or think about me, I'm going through so much, like it's not fair. While this may be true, it's also important to think about the other person's perspective. And so when we're positively reinforcing each other and saying, this is where we want to get to. Like, we're doing this together. This is what we want to see. You guys are doing great. Like, keep this up. This is the kind of thing that instead of going, oh, you should do this, you need to do this, everyone has to be doing this, the expectation is so high, and yet everyone feels bad and is not doing it and they're retreating. We want to create a really open, healthy environment where it's positive and encouraging. Um, Involvement in decision making, and then learning and growing together. So we're learning and growing together as a family. Like, that's the most important thing to me is rebuilding. And I don't know if I would love to hear what your thoughts are, but for me, family is everything. But I also see this as an opportunity for restorative justice, and really investing in each other. Because, I mean, yes, of course, like, I love seeing my family together, and it brings me so much joy. It does. But it's about we're fostering understanding, we're fostering empathy, we're creating a supportive environment where everyone in our family feels valued, and that to me is so important. It may not have happened in the past in different family situations for whatever reason, but as we do this, as we're changing that narrative and changing that experience, we're also helping to heal past misunderstandings. We're building a foundation of mutual respect. We're building a foundation of love. We're building a foundation of belonging. We're building this foundation where everyone feels like they are valued, that they are seen, that they are included, that they're a part of. Um, and what this means is also we have to all show up. So we have to be vulnerable. I've realized we have to take risks sometimes, and we have to face some things that really do trigger us or are very uncomfortable. Like, I know for my parents, maybe it does. Some of these moments may remind them of past hurt and feelings of isolation, and then this re-triggers some things, and it's painful. And sometimes it's easier not to even face it. Sometimes it's easier just to say, you know what, screw it. Like, I've been doing the things I've been doing for so long that this is where I'm going to stay. But if we allow ourselves to recognize what emotions are coming up for all of us, realizing where they're coming from, or addressing them either through conversation or setting boundaries or seeking support, we're reframing these experiences. So now we're trying to develop these healthy relationships, which are built on mutual respect and understanding. We're not going to run away. That's the thing about family. And once we establish that no matter what we do, no matter what you say, what your perspective is, your feelings, your thoughts, they're valid here, and we're here for it. And as long as you lean in and tell us, we will lean in as well, and we're going to fix this together. Like, we're going to do it in a healthy way. We're going to make sure the boundaries are set, but we're also going to ensure that we are all here, and every person is worth fighting for. And I think that's the goal of what kind of environment we're trying to establish here in the house. um, I feel like at this point we're trying to create these meaningful experiences. We're trying to see, stronger bonds built with grandkids, but also, of course, with us, and not allowing this division of, which I've heard of so much. It's, once, you know, Coda kids grow up, they go with their, hearing families, their kids don't learn sign language, and then that's the end of it, right? And that's devastating. It's devastating. And I think, it happened to me for a long time because I moved so far away. As involved as I am with the deaf community, I think that's like a point where it's like, that's so painful. And it's a painful piece of the deaf community and the Coda community where we don't really talk about it that much at all. It just hurts um, because it hurts so deep. And so I just wanted to just bring this out here. I know this is probably a hard topic, but it's been coming up in my family a lot. And as my family works towards building these bonds, I just also want to say that I just uh, to deaf people out there, you as a deaf person, I just want to say this: bring incredible value to our families. So please show up. And I know it can hurt sometimes, and I know that it's may be traumatizing. It may bring up a lot of things, um, but please show up. And to hearing family members who have deaf people in your family, I'm going to say the same thing. Please show up. It's worth it. It's so worth it to lean in, to give them, to make a phone call every now and then, to get to know who they are, to get to, as I said, create these shared memories with people that you may not have spent a lot of time with. Learn some new signs. It's so cool to learn sign language. It's like such an awesome opportunity that you have to bring someone in your family that hasn't had the opportunity to really create those shared memories and have that shared experiences and be a part of the family. So I'd say for all of us, lead in. Lean in because the reward of deeper connections is worth it. We're all worth it. And um, hopefully, as we start navigating it, it's not going to be easy. There's been moments where it's really, really hurt. But at the end of the day, once our communities are strong, our families are strong, we all lean in. Like, you know, we can repair so much. We can strengthen our community so much.